Dear listener, again, the purpose of this show is to make you less reactive to the news. Think very, very seriously about who you're going to elect to be your senator.
If you want to rattle a snake, you must be prepared to be bitten by it.
Did you really bring your mind to bear? Did you really focus and understand what you were doing? So that when you made the decision, you were convinced, whether wrong or right, you were convinced that you understood the situation.
And we don't want to get to that point where we have left the country to a few guys. This conversation is not for just us, it's for you to go and spread it out there.
Intolerance. We are brewing intolerance.
You will take it upon yourself to be in the know, one, to be involved, two, and if you're not being involved, to question why you're not being involved and find a way to get involved.
Democracy cannot operate unless we are tolerant. You tolerate your friend, your neighbor, to have an opinion different from yours.
Yeah, welcome back to Proactive. What episode are we on now?
I've lost count.
Wow, that's such a nice statement, though. I mean, for sure. I mean, we've been doing this for a while. It's a whole year plus, and we don't even know what episode now we are. I know we're in 26 or 27.
Between 20 and 30.
Around there. We're still covering the 6 piece.
And today we're covering Senate.
The role of the Senate in Kenya.
Senator. Au ndio sawa anaitwa senator.
Oh, okay.
Also, I'd say it's one of the positions that was introduced by the 2010 Constitution. It was not there in the previous Constitution, but again, I think it used to be there. At some point in the history of Kenya, we used to have two houses in Parliament. There used to be the Senate and I think Senate and Parliament, and then I think it was amended. Sijui ndio ilikuwa inaitwa majimboism. I think at some point we did have a Senate.
Yes,
There's a time when we had two houses.
Way back.
Yeah, hiyo ni kitambo.
Yeah.
But anyway, so like we can say it was reintroduced
All right.
by the 2010 Constitution. And when it started, it was a position that was quite not well understood by the Kenyans and of course by the politicians themselves. Because it was expected that being the Senate, first of all, it's going to be a house that is slightly higher than the National Assembly. It's going to have a bit more prestige, responsibilities. Iko juu kidogo kuliko the National Assembly.
Kuitwa senator.
But also, initially people thought that it was supposed to be a house for taki kusema wababas. But initially it was supposed to be a house for the people who are a bit elderly in politics. That was the expectation before. But as per the Constitution, as per the law, anybody can be a senator provided that you're over 18. It's not just limited to the senior members in the senior members of society in politics.
Ulikuwa umesema yani senator ni ya wababa wa siasa.
At some point that's what people thought. I remember, people did not understand this position. Yeah. So yeah, we have the Senate, and Senate again is divided in terms of counties.
Yes.
I think first of all, the most important thing to mention is that it is also Parliament. So when you talk about Parliament, a member of Parliament can either be a member of the National Assembly or a member of the Senate. Both Senate and National Assembly make up Parliament. They make up the legislature, which is one of the arms of the government.
Yeah. But now the senator is kind of protecting the interest of the
counties, because they represent the counties. So we have 47 senators, but also because it's a parliamentary house, it still has nominated members. Let's just get into Article 98.
How many senators do we have?
We can count based on what the Constitution provides, but I know for sure we have more than 47 because each county must elect a senator. Okay. But we also have nominated senators. And we have senators representing the special interest groups. So,
all right.
We have under Article 98, we have 47 members, each elected by the registered voters of the counties, each county constituting a single member constituency. Then we have, so basically 47 for each county, the ones that we elect during the general elections. Then we have 16 women members who shall be nominated by political parties according to their proportion of members of the Senate under Clause A in accordance with Article 90. So basically, women members. So 16 women. It's in the Constitution.
All right.
Then we shall have 2 members, 1 man and 1 woman representing the youth. And then 2 members, 1 man and 1 woman representing persons with disabilities. And then we shall also have the speaker, who shall be an ex-officio member. I think the current speaker of the Senate is Lusaka.
Hold that thought. We will be back in a few. And we are back. So you said 47?
47 members elected from each county.
16
women. For the women.
Sasa unataka kutuchapa.
Sasa see, we discussed the position of the woman representative and the previous disenfranchisement of women last week.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yes.
And then 2 what?
And then we shall have 2 members, 1 man and 1 woman, emphasis on 1 man, 1 woman equality, representing the youth, because the youth are considered to be a special interest group.
Okay.
And then we shall also have 2, 1 man and 1 woman, representing persons with disability.
All right.
And then the speaker as an ex-official member, of which we've mentioned that the speaker is is Kenneth Lusaka.
Yes. Speaker Kenneth Lusaka.
Yes.
Because I was
Speaker
going
of the
off.
Senate.
All right. So a total of around 67 with 1 ex-official member, I think. 16 to
47 plus 4 plus 16.
Wacha kufanya hesabu yangu ikaamba ni 47 plus 20.
And then plus the ex-official member.
Yes, so I said 67 and 1 ex-official member.
So 68.
Nilienda shule, nilisoma.
Sawa.
My maths is okay.
We are sorry.
Perfect. Now, these guys are now in office. They're running now. They're doing their things. Party have nominated who they want around. It's actually, are the 16 women nominated via parties?
Yeah, they are nominated by political parties based on their proportion from amongst the 47 elected ones. So if you were to go to the Senate today, you will find that the nominated women are either from Jubilee or from NASA. I think back then it was NASA.
Yeah, whoever has majority gets a larger portion,
Yes,
then it goes breaking down as per the parties.
Exactly.
All right, cool. Let's go now. Senator, what is his role?
Yes.
I think, look, let me see what Afrokev said. The role of the Senate in Kenya is very important. I like this guy because I think he captures my words better than I do. Afrocave.com, guys. The role of the Senate in Kenya is very important. The role of a senator in Kenya takes place in Senate. The Senate is one of the chambers of the
bicameral house
in Kenya. People wonder which between the Senate and the National Assembly is more powerful. And I pause at that because now with you here now, you need to elaborate on that, and this is where their roles come in, and we understand much better. Is it a question of the Senate is more powerful than...
It's not really about power. I think their roles differ slightly, but they also usually have to work hand in hand many a times. Now, which one is more powerful? I said when we started, I told you that initially when the Senate was reintroduced, people thought that's going now to be the house for the wababas, for the elderly members in the political community. And if you were to look at, again, this constitution is, we were, I don't say copying, we were learning from other jurisdictions. A jurisdiction like the US, for example, Senate versus Congress. Usually the Senate is a bit more powerful than the Congress. In fact, the senator stays in office for 6 years as compared to the member of the Congress, who usually has to go to the ballot after every 2.5 years.
Yeah, there's always been that fight that the National Assembly is superior to the Senate to that extent because they deal with matters to do with nationwide, and the Senate will focus more on the county
counties.
Yeah, so there's always been that part.
In Kenya, in my opinion, based on my understanding of their roles in Kenya, none is superior to the other. Both are at the same level. Both are houses of parliament. And again, as I mentioned, severally, they have had to work together. And you find that whatever goes through the Senate also has to go through the National Assembly for approval. And whatever goes through the National Assembly also has to go through the Senate. For example, perhaps this will also come in as one of the roles. Do you remember when we were discussing the process of the...
BBI?
No, not really the process of the BBI. We were discussing the process of... there was a debate in the Senate. They were stuck with some bill for quite some time about the revenue allocation. Yes, the revenue allocation bill.
Right.
So it was stuck in the Senate for some time until the senators, Senator Sakaja and Senator Mutula Kilonzo, the young senators, had to come up with some kind of formula that would satisfy the entire Kenya.
Yes.
Yeah. So after that, the bill had to go now through the National Assembly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other times they work together. For example, for the BBI, JLAC, Joint Legal Affairs and Justice Committee. So that it's, the committee from the Senate also has to work with the committee from the National Assembly. So in my opinion, and based on my understanding of the roles, these houses are equal to one another. But again, I don't have much information. Perhaps maybe the equality. Yes, I don't have much information regarding the internal affairs. Okay. I don't know how much a senator earns. I'm sorry, dear listener, if I've disappointed you. You might find that a senator makes so much more than a member of National Assembly in terms of salary, in terms of per diem. That should be enough to tell us which house is more superior to the other.
We will check on that matter later. Tuweke kwa job description. Unajua unamaliza shule, tunaweza kukuweka huko kama senator.
I'd be glad to serve the Kenyans as a senator.
Let's talk about Article 96 of the Kenyan Constitution. The roles of the Senate in Kenya. Do you want to go, or should I just touch on them?
No, let me just read what we have. So Article 96(1) provides that the Senate represents the counties and serves to protect the interests of their counties and their governments.
Okay.
Yeah, so it basically serves the counties and protects the interests of the counties and the county governments.
Okay.
So it generally exercises an oversight role over the counties, oversight over the governor. And of course, governor is more powerful than the senator, but still, the governor has to be accountable to the senator.
A good example
Senators
is when we saw this impeachment cases there.
Yes, impeachment cases always have to go through the Senate before they are either allowed or not allowed. For example, when Babayao was impeached, he had to go through the Senate.
Hold up. Kuna baba na sasa umeka Babayao, so we have to be very clear about who is being impeached.
But Babayao ni yule mmoja, yule wa Kiambu.
Pia baba ni Babayao.
No, kuna baba kando. You just say baba and then kuna Babayao.
Guys, we're talking about Ferdinand Waitito. Okay, focus.
Yes. So when he was being impeached as a governor, the Senate, he had to be taken before the Senate and present his case. Of course, now the rules of natural justice dictate that we must hear the other side. So on the one side, there's the MCAs who want to impeach him, who have a case against him, who could even prove that he had misappropriated funds and all that. And then on the other hand, he was there. He had to also present his case to the Senate and just convince the Senate they ought not to allow for his impeachment for one reason or another.
All right.
So the Senate collectively decided to impeach him. Then we had a different case, the Kirinyaga governor case, whereby an ad hoc committee was set up to deal with the issue of the potential impeachment of Governor Waiguru. So the committee decided not to impeach her.
Which was very interesting.
People are just complaining that, why is it that the governor of Kirinyaga is being taken through a different process from the one that
I was
the
one of
governor
those
of
people
Kiambu.
complaining.
Yeah, and I also don't have an answer for that. I cannot have an answer for that because it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Why couldn't the Senate just be consistent? This is how we dealt with the Kiambu governor, so this is how we shall deal with the
Wakili, is this a
Kirinyaga
loophole in
governor.
the Constitution? Is this what we are saying?
the constitution is not clear.
On how things, so this is this is definitely a loophole that needs to be covered. That's what we are saying.
Yeah, it's a loophole, but it has probably been covered now by there, because again, remember, the Senate being a house of parliament, one of its role also is to make laws.
Okay.
Bills are also made in the Senate, and they go through the 6 stages of a bill becoming a law. It also happens within the Senate.
It's actually section 2 of what we are talking about, the roles of the Senate.
Okay.
Participating in the law making function of parliament.
Exactly.
By
so
considering,
probably there's a law that I don't know if right by now there's a law. I think there was a time the senators were considering just coming up with a law to state how to deal, so that it's uniform, so that it's written down somewhere.
Yeah, they need to be clear about
because
it. Are we going to go through ad hoc
committee, or are we going to have all the members of the Senate participating and deciding whether or not?
Because they go against everything that the MCAs had been saying. And they came and they decided
they did their own investigation. So the ad hoc committee, I think it was chaired by Malala.
But
Senator
surely a whole county
Malala.
a whole county is against a governor, and then an ad hoc comes and says
an ad hoc committee of the Senate, because they exercise an oversight role over the counties.
But where is the position where I say this is a vote of no confidence with this person based on what we have seen on the ground as the people?
As the people, you're represented by the MCAs.
And the MCAs made it clear this lady had to go.
Yes, they did make it clear, but as per our laws, the Senate must have a say. And if the Senate decides that this person does not have a case to answer, or these allegations are just not substantial enough to impeach the said person, then unfortunately for us, we just have to.
We're in trouble.
But anyway, again, these senators, we elect them. We put them in office. So if we also think that they ought to impeach someone, then talk to your senator. Is your senator accessible? Yeah? This is how we want you to vote regarding the impeachment of Governor A or B.
Okay.
We want you to impeach. Go and vote. We as the people of Nairobi have sent you Senator Sakaja. This is how we want you to deal with the issue.
With this matter.
Yeah.
Interested. Part 3 of it says the Senate determines the allocation of national revenue among counties as provided in Article 217 and exercises oversight over national revenue allocated to the county governments.
Yeah, and that takes us back to the debate that was there last year.
Yes.
Which were probably episode...
Look, guys, there's a whole episode on national revenue allocation.
Yeah.
Go back and listen. If we start, hata tujui tuko episode gani. Sasa tukianza kuambia watu go back to episode... tunawaambia episode 10 alafu tunapata tuliongea. But I'm pretty sure there's a introduction. It's a heading. Hii kitu inaitangwaje producer hapo juu?
Revenue allocation debate.
Acha producer angalia alafu atatuambia. But it's definitely there. I think that one has been one of the toughest things to cover. Oh, it's on episode 9. I was close with 10.
Okay.
Yeah. This has been one of the toughest ones to cover along the way, because we've seen that marginalized counties have been crying foul for a long time. And even the fund that had been put up for them as marginalized counties
has not yet been operationalized. Yeah.
And so the argument of going to 35%, trying to get this national cake.
But do you remember how senators were really passionate about the issue?
Which was really exciting for me.
About senators, now they were literally representing their counties. No, you cannot leave out my county. You cannot,
And even as they were voting, they were stating their name and their county and making a whole dramatization out of it, which was very interesting for me, because we saw people who would lean towards supporting the national government, and people in the counties who said, no, before we do that, we have to focus first on us and see how things would go down. So I think they really played their role there, and it was important. It's still not actualized to the potential that we want revenue to reach the counties.
But I think finally they were able to settle on a formula.
This has happened twice. Every time they sit down for this revenue allocation,
it's a debate.
It's a whole debate.
So there's a debate loading. Is there a debate coming soon?
100%.
This year.
Yes.
When is it coming?
It's probably going to be done next Wait, is it after? They're usually done after a term of 5 years, I think. It is always a span of a few years in the middle before they do this revenue allocation again. Because we remember the first time it happened and it was a whole debate, but it went subtle. This one was a bit more louder. I assure you,
another one is coming.
the next one coming is going to be louder than ever.
Okay.
Because the counties now understand that this piece of cake is ours. We are the ones who still give back this money to the national government through all those taxings and taxations and levies that are put across, and we need to be part of it. If there's one thing I'm pretty sure that this next round will happen, the marginalized one, the fund that was supposed to be set up has to be actualized.
Okay.
Because now counties that have been marginalized kutoka,
I think there's a plan to operationalize.
if it doesn't happen before time,
fund.
yeah, it has to happen before.
I hope it happens
Because
I think they extended the validity of the fund based on the constitution, because it allows parliament to extend.
Because it had pushed for it to be done under a period of 10 years to make sure they would catch up, and then
from 2010 to 2020.
Yeah, to 2020, alafu after 10 years nothing has happened. It's not even been hata account haikufunguliwa bana. Ai jameni. All right, and lastly, the Senate participates in the oversight of state officers by considering and determining any resolution to remove the president or the deputy president from office in accordance with Article 145.
Yes, so the president and deputy president are impeachable.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll discuss the president. Maybe we can touch a bit on the issue of impeachment, but the Senate has to approve of the impeachment.
The clear one coming along the way, sijui kama ni yake ama itaenda kwa the National Assembly ni ya Matiang'i. There's a motion somewhere
in the but I think it will still have to go through the Senate. And I think recently one of the recent issues that we even discussed, though we did not discuss in our show, we discussed this in Yellow Tape, was the senators summoning the cabinet secretaries responsible for energy and petroleum to answer to the questions that many Kenyans were raising about the sudden hike in the fuel price.
It's pretty interesting. By the debate was happening around I can't remember the exact time, and members were busy on campaign trails. They were not in the house debating over these fuel prices.
Anyway, that's the country we have. And dear listener, again, the purpose of this show is to make you less reactive to the news. Think very, very seriously about who you're going to elect to be your senator.
Pretty interesting. Also, you just say that Wakili have remembered something. The court decided that whatever you are suggesting is unconstitutional.
Yes, but I hope it will be appealed. The decision, Parliament will appeal against that decision, because honestly speaking,
stop spoon feeding people. Let people choose wisely.
No, but now if I'm going to have someone making laws that affect my life, for example, my legal practice, then I need someone who's more learned in legal practice to sit in the legal affairs committee to pass laws that touch on that.
Of the electoral
education
committee to shortlist those people for you. It's supposed to be your choice.
Yes, it's my choice, but we also need to just have qualified people on the ballot.
But we are basing this qualification of a system on a system of education that is already
we need
in trouble.
Educated people.
Yes, the system of education is already in trouble in itself.
No, but saizi bado watu wa CBC bado wako huko chini.
Mtu anaendaga India anachukua certificate anakaa, anateremka River Road anachukua certificate anakaa.
Alafu ana present.
We need to choose our leaders based on their qualities.
I really, really hope that decision will be appealed against.
Whether it will be appealed, as it stands now, it's unconstitutional, okay?
Yes, it's unconstitutional. And
the reason why I am pushing for it to remain that way is for people to be very critical in who they choose as their leaders, and not for them to be spoon-fed people
but now,
based on criteria that have been set up.
I'm so sorry, dear listener, but we are gullible Kenyans. We are... we are gullible. For somebody somewhere, it's just enough to give me that 500 note on the day of the election, and I will put you. And I will not even think about whether you have good plans or whether you're even educated. In my opinion, we only need to have qualified people on the ballot. Actually, there's a bill in Parliament sponsored by Honorable Wandai, and the bill seeks to ensure that the people on the ballot are only people who don't even have corruption cases ongoing. Yeah. So that way we have filtered out people with cases. They go sort out the case, prove their innocence, then maybe
Good
they can
people.
come back to the ballot next time.
Choose your leaders wisely. Choose your leaders wisely. Wacha kufanyiwa kazi yote. Usingoje 500.
Hapana.
But then you should be telling people here, hiyo 500 ndio inawaletea hizi shida zote.
Chukua hiyo 500. Hata mimi nitachukua. But uko kwa ballot uko peke yako. Uko peke yako.
Can we point out a few things in terms of the Senate before we talk about how the importance of making these laws and the lawmakers that we put there, and then the kind of ordinary and special bills that would definitely come to the Senate once in a while. It's good to check out documents about the budget process in Kenya, and that's something we can do. The document's essential to it. It's important to talk about these reports by the Auditor General, the fact that we have counties that need to be held in a transparent manner, and the Senate is the one that makes this possible for us in terms of oversight. And so that's a whole session we can have on its own when it comes to revenue allocation and the process behind it, and
So
how
we've
the
already
people,
done revenue allocation.
yeah, we had the issue that was being raised at that time by the national government, but we did not take people through the whole process and where
I think
they
we
step
did.
in and they're involved
Okay.
in that allocation and that budget process.
Okay.
All right. The other one is very simple. You are for let's filter these people. Me are for
Let's filter these people and only have the most competent people competing amongst each
me. I
other.
am for people. You need to know who your leader
Sasa,
is. Wacha kufanyiwa kazi na mtu.
Sasa.
Anaitangwa aje the IEBC chairman.
Wafula Chebukati.
Chebukati should not be doing the job for you. Hata kuja kwa kaunti yenyu kujua huyo mtu.
Hapana.
What do you feel like we've left out in terms of the Senate? I feel like there's a whole lot of things that we need to take through when it comes to the Senate.
Could it be their roles, discussing their roles in a manner that's a bit more deep?
Yeah, more detailed, because I think, but we do have, we generally have a whole cover of what they are supposed to do, and unless now the audience now asks us questions further into how things happen, because I've talked about it, integrity in the public office is something that we've mentioned. The pillars that they've put up of their roles for the Senate can be broken down further, and we can only do a somewhat over a cover just for now, until now we get deeper into those things. But when they're choosing their leaders now, when you're choosing their senator, they need to think about someone who is good with legal policies. They need to think through about someone who is going to be able to do public oversight.
Yeah, I think for me the most important is someone who's able to keep the governor accountable. Yes.
And someone who's going to be very vocal, especially if you're in a marginalized county. About
reminds me of one senator who likes advancing the interests of the Ma community.
Allah. Wait, you better scratch that, Mr. Producer, before Atwoli comes and asks me for money for using his phrase. Who are you talking about?
Senator Olekina, always advancing the interests of the Ma community, a community that is a bit marginalized, but it's an important community. Actually, the heritage of Kenya is always Maasai culture, jumping up and down, and they're shukas. When tourists come to Kenya and they walked away with something from Kenya, most of the time it's something from the Ma community. So an important community.
It's an important community.
Even in terms of Kenya's history and colonization.
Yeah. And he's doing a good job.
Yeah.
Like, I like how he dresses when he goes to
Oh,
comedy.
yeah. The right to culture.
The right to culture.
Yeah.
I'm going to finish it with your top 3 senators.
My top 3 senators. My number 1 senator would have to be my senator, Senator Sakaja. Is it Johnson or Johnston?
It's Johnson.
Yeah, he's very mature politically, and I saw this maturity during the 2017 elections and 2018. He does not get into beefs, unnecessary beefs with other senators. He does not even get physical if he's disagreeing with other senators. And I remember when he was the chair of the COVID committee and then he was on the wrong, he actually admitted to Kenyans and respectfully resigned because he also
ile siku alikuwa nakunywa. Mbona unaiweka vibaya? Usiseme tu alikuwa nakunywa masaa ya curfew.
Yani he went against the COVID protocols. Yet he was in charge of a committee that was in charge of all that.
Good. Alikuwa nakunywa masaa ya curfew wase. Okay. Alikuwa amefungiwa kwa
Number 2 will have to be Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. I also find him to be mature even in his engagements, even on social media, and even actually he's the minority whip. He's a minority whip in the Senate. Yeah, he's mature just generally. And also the two of them worked hand in hand to come up with a formula that was finally acceptable.
All right, number 3.
My number 3 senator would have to be Olekina. I just love how vocal he is, how outgoing he is.
You had to think about it for a while, Yani, before you say.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, do you have not even mentioned my senator wa Ushago?
Unaishi Nairobi. Tuendele.
But anyway, yeah, I love how vocal he is. He's very outgoing. Not a feature. I am here to protect the interests of my community.
Right.
That's how it should be. And I hope to have such courage someday.
Oh, good. It's pretty interesting that there's a part of being vocal that you have put in terms for senators. As it stands now, last question from me. Do you feel like senators, the position, bado ni ya wababa?
Hapana. Nilisema si ya wababa. Anybody who's over 18, even me si mbaba, I can vie to be a senator. We actually had a person vying, a young lady vying for senator Nairobi in 2017. Silantoi Susan was vying against Sakaja.
All right.
So, yeah, I'd love to see more youth competing for the position of senator. I'd love to be a senator myself at some point. Because, again, in my opinion, this is just a biased opinion. This is not exactly the position. But in my opinion, even the debates at the Senate are more mature. And even the people at the Senate are more mature than in the National Assembly. I have seen people getting physical in the National Assembly. Sijaiona hiyo kwa Senate. So I'd rather associate myself with the Senate, honestly.
Good people, it's been a good one. I don't think I have much to add to the conversation. It's pretty we haven't done an in-depth on what the Senate really does because that would have to break a lot more.
Okay. Timo, before you end, you have not told us your top 3 senators.
My top 3 senators. Look, I'm a bit biased. My first one would have been Kipchumba Murkomen. Yeah.
Okay.
I really like and I don't really have qualities that I would say in terms of what we've talked about the roles, because now I have to go back and think about what their roles are and now start assessing them and finding out who has performed and who hasn't performed in terms of leadership and governance. And so out of these ones that I give out would just be definitely from a point of the conversations that I've had with seen them having and the roles that they've played when matters were a bit controversial in parliament. So Kipchumba Murkomen, definitely. Sakaja would be number 2, and then Olekina would be number 3. But that one is just based on Olekina and the hype that has been there. But to be honest, I need to go back and really assess my leaders and see out of the top 3 that I choose, what is the criteria that I've chose. Because right now it's just the engagement that I've been able to have with them and not really based on anything else. And even as I come towards this election period, who I choose as my leader has to really be a pre-qualification of the roles that the Senate has, and to choose for myself who I feel is qualified to do this and find out the reasons as to why. Yeah. So yangu, definitely. I didn't even want you to ask because it does not have any important criteria to it, but it's just my favorite. I would say my favorite, not top 3. Okay. My 3 favorite. Yeah. And with that, I think we can leave it at that. Article 111 is very clear about special bills, and so we can point that out. All right. So a question came in just before we finish, and definitely this one is yours, Elsie. Someone asked, how essential is this position? And he points out, can we survive without senators?
Yeah, sure, we can survive without senators. We did survive without them before the 2010 Constitution, because what are they? They are in Parliament. We already have members of the National Assembly. The roles that the Senate is playing are roles that the National Assembly is very well capable of playing, especially in terms of lawmaking. We have two bodies making laws. We can just have one body and we'll be good to go.
So umesema turudi pali tulikuwa?
Staki turudi. Ikae tu. We have 16 women over there who just have a position. we have
way else you push the agenda of women so hard, and it's a good thing. I think for me,
I acknowledge that we can do without the Senate.
I think for me, one of the major roles, that's to why I would say that they can actually stay, and I wish that they would stay, is the fact that for two good reasons: oversight of the governors and revenue allocations.
Again, oversight of the governors can be done by the members of National Assembly.
I 100% agree on that. But that being taken to them, they have held the governors accountable. From the National Assembly, they have national issues to deal with, and county level issues could be handled in a different manner. Number two, when it comes to revenue allocation in these counties, they have played a bigger role in ensuring that the money that comes from the national government is going down to the counties.
Yeah.
And we have to push those two agendas. Do I feel like the members of parliament would do a better job in the National Assembly? I don't think so. I feel like the Senate has done a way important, bigger job and a better role, to the point of at some point even having a tussle with the National Assembly in matters to ensure that allocation of revenue and matters that arise in the county are heard and they are vocal and they are met.
Actually, there was a time, it was a debate. They did not go for that debate, but there was a debate about doing away with the Senate. I don't know if it was early this year or it was last year. Yeah, there was a time they were considering, I think it was a conversation in the National Assembly about doing away with the Senate. Why do we even have the Senate?
To be honest, for me, some of the biggest things that I would I feel like for me, the members of parliament need to go. I feel it's going to be offensive for people, but their role hasn't been felt.
And yet we have more than 250 constituencies.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's not really based on their roles, but the leaders that are there currently. For me, I feel the Senate is doing a way better job, and the county governments would do a way better job than whatever is happening in the National Assembly. The National Assembly for me is just a waste of taxpayers' money.
Okay.
Yeah.
With that, dear listeners, we encourage you to send us your comments, your questions. We shall respond to them. And we wish you a lovely week.
Bye.